We thought it was a great honor to be recognized through Hosparus, as they have, we just think it's a fine organization and what all they do for the community. And so we try to hit the organizations that we feel do the most good for our community.
I'm proud to be a part of that.
I am too. I'm proud to be part of it, be able to give back to our community. There's no other organization like Hosparus here in the community that I'm aware of, and I think it truly does make an impact in people's lives when they need it the most. Our mother was very adamant that she did want to die at home, so we immediately called Hosparus. They came immediately and really helped us allow my mother to go through her last days with dignity, and assisted us in going through that process because we had no idea what to expect. Hosparus has done a tremendous job in educating families, helping families emotionally, and also after the passing of a family member with bereavement.
So often people think of Hosparus as just dealing with the individual and reducing their pain and suffering and letting them pass on with dignity, but they also help much more than that. They help the family while they're dealing with the death, and they help deal with the emotional, how to go on from that. And that's what Hosparus gives back. We're the better for it. Whatever amount that you can give, small or large, makes a tremendous difference in Hosparus. Everybody's dollars count.
The namesake of the award, Sister Marilyn Spink, is someone who I know. Sister Marilyn, of course, was such a strong, loving educator and such a great presence that was very overwhelming and tender to me to be given this award in her name. At Nazareth Home, we really value our relationship with Hosparus. And it's been a joy to me to work with so many of the fine folks involved in Hosparus. The beautiful thing about hospice is the mind, body, spirit. There's a real opportunity for a better closure if we can come together, because the end of days is such a wonderful time to bring people around to celebrate the good things. Hospice offers that preparation in a way that makes the end of days something to look back on, to hang on to.
Two of the dear people that I've known for a very long time at Hosparus made contact with me under the guise of writing a book and wanting some of my stories. And so they took me to lunch, and at this lunch said, "It was a ruse. We wanted to let you know that you've been selected for this year's Cheryl Thirlwell Award." It is such a profound privilege. It's that we get such a close-in view to what's important to a person, and that we get to walk these steps along with them, the entering in, the having the patient and the family define our role for us. What is it that matters to you? Allowing people to speak their concerns, listening, attending. I'm remembering when I was very new at hospice, just within a few weeks, and he was a dear man. So I sat there and held his hand and told back the story to him that he had told me the day before. And he nodded. He had heard every word. And at the end of that, he died. I thought there's something so deeply profound about this experience. Having Hosparus is a way for you to have life on your own terms. And life can be fuller, have more meaning. We get to be the people with the sleeves rolled up. Life gets easier in the midst of great difficulty. When Hosparus can be there and to say, your journey mattered, you belong.
We were absolutely thrilled. It was a surprise and a delight to understand that we would be honored with such an award. Hospice is such an important, vital part of our community, and the services that they provide is such an important thing for us. So that's something that we were passionate about as a board and felt so honored to be able to help and assist in the mission of getting to a new location for hospice. Really, from our beginning, we've been a good partner with Hosparus, and that's something that our board has felt passionately about throughout the years. We have board members who have been personally assisted by Hosparus, and certainly that is always the most personal touch that someone can have. And for them to have that experience and be so passionate about it was really something that spoke strongly to the board. We really started in 2001 with our first grant, and then over the next 10 years awarded over $65,000 in grants to Hosparus, and that really went to fund things such as technology upgrades, medical equipment, and direct funding for bereavement counseling, which is so important to families in the southern Indiana region. In 2010, our board was extremely honored and pleased to be able to award a major grant of $500,000 to Hosparus, and that will be used to fund the new location in Floyd County, and it's $100,000 over 5 years. On behalf of the entire board, I would definitely like to extend a special thank you to Jerry Finn, our hardworking executive director, who really assists us in bringing the best opportunities for the community broadly to the attention of the board. In addition, we definitely would want to say thank you to all the hardworking employees at the Horseshoe Casino in southern Indiana, for without them we would not have the funds that we were able to provide through the foundation and get that money back into the community.
It's very much an honor, and to be singled out, it's humbling. Our biggest event of the year was a hospice ball, and it was a fun night, and it went to a good cause, and at the end of the day, you know, everybody had a good time. We'd raised a bunch of money. I think being on the board of Hospice just kind of gives you more of an insight. Having used Hospice, it makes a big difference because I feel like I'm more at the heart of it. It's a great organization. I think once you have personally used Hospice, that you just realize what it does for you and for your family. At the point where there's no one else to call, then Hospice steps in and it takes the weight off your shoulders. The follow-up care was so good. There's a lot to be said for the care after death because, you know, the person that dies has died, but those of us alive, you still have to carry on. Whether it's for bereavement, whether it's for camps for the children, I know the money is going to be used in a good way. I think Hospice does a wonderful job. The money is well spent by Hospice through donations. Without Hospice, this community and communities everywhere would be hurting without it.
It was just such an honor just to have received this. It's very special. I'm a geriatrician, so Hospice as a team helps me with this by joining forces with Hospice and bringing them into my patients' homes, wherever home is, has been really a benefit. It means a lot for the family as well as the patient to be able to live as much as possible with quality. As soon as I meet a patient, we talk about their goals and we talk about their wishes. And during that discussion, I always bring up Hospice for the future. You know, if it's not appropriate right then, we talk about, would they consider something like Hospice coming in and being involved at the end of their days. I'm hoping that more physicians in the community will start looking a little further ahead on patients as they start declining over a period of time, to maybe talk with families and see if Hospice is a benefit that they could use at that point. I'd like them to know about Hospice, that it's more of a process. If you are declining and a doctor feels like you have 6 months or less to live on average, that you may qualify, and that it would be an added benefit for them to be able to have more quality. I've been on the advisory board for a couple years now, and it's a great way to meet other people in the community that are also referring to Hosparus, and it's just a good way to have a voice and input into the care of my patients. Even though we're aging, we should still be respected and have dignity.
The doctor said, you know, we really need to call in hospice. And I had never had experience or any exposure to hospice care. There was always somebody there when I needed somebody from hospice. There was always that feeling of we're not doing enough for our mom. And they were there to say, you know, you don't have to be her nurse or her aide. You can just be her daughter and just be with her. When she passed, we called the hospice person immediately. A chaplain was there probably in a half hour. It was tough. I got information about the grief counseling, and I thought, you know, this is probably something I need to look into, because I wasn't doing really well on my own. It was what I needed. In my session, there were like 10 of us, and we had all lost our moms within the prior year. Just sharing those experiences and hearing others talk about feeling the same kind of loss that I felt. The counselor really just guided us through the process and helped us to verbalize some feelings and emotions and talk about what had happened in a way that, you know, you began to think about the memories as they weren't quite so painful. My mom certainly wouldn't wanted us to have struggled with that, and hospice was there to do that. You owe it to yourself, you owe it to your loved one to get help. That person's life may have ended on a certain day, but they are always a part of you. The Hosparus Grief Counseling Center really helps you find that next chapter.
I became familiar with hospice when my mother became ill for the last time, and her doctor actually recommended that we get in touch with hospice. And they came almost immediately. They took care of everything. The people, all of them, were extremely kind and treating her with great respect. That helped me a lot. When my mother passed away, I was completely alone. And I realized pretty early on that I couldn't deal with my grief alone. The most important thing is for anyone who's experiencing a loss, anyone who's going through grief, not to go through it alone. To speak with people who understand grief and understand the course of grief, that's really valuable. So recognizing that, you know, how you react and how you feel when you lose someone is different. Hospice helped me see that. I've learned a lot about hospice from dealing directly with the organization, and I commend everyone who works at hospice.
We decided that instead of him spending his last moments in a hospital, we'd let him die in peace at home. I just remember the grievance counselor that was around the house when my dad was really sick. Sometimes we would sit down at the table and I would just question after question after question. I was, 12, I had all the questions in the world, and they just had answers for all my questions. And I never once saw any annoyance, any frustration, anything. Just, they understood where I was coming from. And I didn't really want to see a counselor. I thought I was above all that. I reluctantly went into it. She really helped me understand that my feelings are normal, and I wasn't as strong as I thought I was. And I had a lot of things to get over and had a lot of things to talk about. And you don't really realize that until you give it a chance. And Shannon, she didn't really know what was going on. She was so young. She loved going to the group counseling. She met friends. She really started to understand the situation better. I just remember hospice being right there and supporting me when I needed it. So, you could feel that they really cared and that they weren't just going through the motions or doing their job. Hospice can offer you things that are really helpful in times of struggle, and they can help anyone. Whether you just need someone there to pat you on the back and say it's all right, or you just need someone to talk to and listen and not say anything, or if you need someone to give you advice and lead you on the right path and recovering from grieving, hospice can do all that for you. I constantly find myself thinking about what if he was still here? When I approach things today that are difficult or that I'm having trouble with, I miss that I could go to him and know that I would get an honest answer and that he would lead me on the right path.
There isn't another organization who does the things that Hosparus does in our community. So I encourage people to really give and give generously.
For an organization like Hosparus and the Grief Counseling Center, be as generous as you can.
I don't think you can really put a price tag on caring and loving communities. obviously give to hospice. They deserve it, so pay up.